You're listening to Oilersnation Radio, presented by the Nation Network. Subscribe for free on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Thank you, Lisa, and welcome to episode 143 of Oilers Nation Radio. I'm Tyler Yaremchuk, Nation Dan, Rick, Bagged Milk. Everyone's here. Usual cast of characters. I'm just hosting today for whatever reason. It's the summer. We like to mix it up. Have a few wobblies while we record them. Just have a good time. As always, our show is brought to you by Sherwood Ford the Giant. Check them out in Sherwood Park. Bagged Milk wants new Broncos. That's what I'm legally obligated to say in the ad read. That's all I'm allowed to talk about is just Bagged Milk wanting the Broncos. But in all actuality, follow our friends on Sherwood Ford the Giant on Instagram. They got some sweet pictures going up all the time of their new models. They posted a picture of a truck the other day that looked just beautiful. Beautiful.
I would say we would all look beautiful in a brand new Bronco. I'm just throwing that out there.
100%.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I don't know if there's a vehicle in their showroom that we wouldn't look good in.
This is probably fair.
This is true. Maybe a new Mustang, Sherwood Ford. I guess the Broncos aren't working. 4 Mustangs for the boys. Huh?
Brand new 2022s, please.
Vroom.
Sound like me doing my lawnmower noises on real life. All right. Let's jump right into it with our Sherwood Ford Giant question. With Vegas taking down Colorado last night, we now know the Final Four in the Stanley Cup playoffs. You got Tampa Bay going up against the Islanders. You got Vegas going up against Montreal. Those are the 4. Sherwood Ford Giant question. What is your Stanley Cup final matchup? Anyone got theirs ripping, roaring, ready to go?
I think everyone's going to have the same one. I really don't see anybody going outside of.
I guarantee you mine's different.
Okay.
So I think this is the majority would come out and say Tampa Bay versus Vegas.
That would be what I would say too, is Tampa versus Vegas, but I would rather see Tampa versus New York. I think New York is just fun. They're a fun.
You mean Vegas, New York?
What did I say? Vegas, New York. Yeah,
Tampa.
Vegas, New York. Vegas, New York would be more fun, I think. Just their fans are just nuts. The New York Saints thing I love. The chants I love. They're going bananas out there. So I would pick New York.
See Ebbs in the final?
Ebbs in the final would be great. And also that would just give like a bunch of just trolley material for everybody who thought he couldn't perform in the playoffs.
He scored a nice goal in game 5, I think it was, of that series. Just a beauty on the power play that he tucked home. So Dan, who are you going with?
I'm going to say Islanders and Habs.
Oh, come on.
I don't know. Okay, so here's my rationale.
And Gaetan Haas will be the breakout star of the playoffs.
I'll give you my rationale. And I think it's one of those things when you look at these two teams, they're kind of constructed the same, right? It's a very system heavy game with the Habs leaning more on Carey Price than the Islanders necessarily do on their goaltending. But for me, the Habs have done it time and time again, and until they prove me otherwise, I'm going to continue to support them now after beating both the Jets and the Leafs. And then on the flip side, I just think that the Tampa Bay Lightning are basically the same team that they were last year when they played New York in the Eastern Conference Finals in our bubble.
When they beat New York in the Eastern Conference Finals.
In 6 games, you're correct. But the New York Islanders are a better team than they were that time. And I feel like the Islanders really pushed the Lightning. They were the only team that really competed with the Lightning in that entire run. So for me, Islanders, Habs. That's my prediction.
I'm genuinely curious. What leads you to believe the Islanders are better this year?
The additions of both Zajac and Palmieri to me just seem to be exactly what this team needed to kind of, I don't know, like when you watch them play now, that system, they absolutely smothered the Bruins for the last 3 games of that series.
They're also missing Anders Lee though.
Yeah, but it, like, to me, it was just like, it was uncomfortable to watch the Boston Bruins with the best line in hockey be shut down and just smothered by the New York Islanders.
That's
Tampa Bay is also, but Tampa Bay is also adding a significant player from last year, because I'm fairly certain Stamkos did not play a lot in that series, if at all, and if he did play, he was really, really hurt.
Yeah, and they're also $17 million over the cap, as
they added David Savard. And Eric Chernak's a beast right now as well. Like, he's blossomed into a legit top 4 guy. That Tampa team's a wagon, and that's why I'm going Tampa Vegas in the final. That's what I want as a hockey fan as well. I want to see 2 of the best teams in the NHL going head to head at the end. An underdog story is great. It's always a ton of fun, but I'm a fan.
Fuck Montreal.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that in just
well, and I will say too, I would love to see an Islanders Vegas series because of the crowds. Those last few games in Nassau Coliseum in New York, and then the Vegas crowd is just the Vegas crowd. So I mean, yeah, it's I think it's fun all over.
With Montreal, they beat Toronto. All hats off to them. That's fantastic. But they beat a Jets team that's just not very good. I'm sorry, like we should have won that. You know, all the underlying numbers. We lost it. Whatever. The most important stat is goals for. Yeah, we lost. I get it. But when you look at all those underlying numbers in that series, like that's like rolling snake eyes twice at the craps table, man. Like that's to do that again, to win all those and lose 4 straight is pretty. But I just don't think
they swept the Jets. Like it wasn't just.
But I just don't think Winnipeg's that good of it. Yeah, I just don't think Winnipeg is as good of a team as everybody. As a lot of people make them sound out to be.
I watched a lot of Vegas, Colorado. I just can't see Montreal being able to handle Vegas in a 7-game series. They are a fucking good team, man. And it's going to be, unless Carey Price goes nuclear and stands on his head, I just can't see it. Vegas is very good.
The one caveat I will say to my Habs going to the finals idea.
Did you say my Habs?
My Habs going to the finals idea.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I just got my
little context. Little context.
In here. Thank you.
My thought that the Habs are going to go to the finals is that Vegas doesn't have that top line that's going to get shut down by the Habs because they can't just stick Danault to Stone because there's other players on that team that are equally as good as Mark Stone when it comes to the offensive side of things.
I don't know if Montreal can score.
That'll be tough too. And the Golden Knights don't have. Their weakness is down the middle, right? And that's where like Colorado losing Kadri just killed the Avs because that's the one area where the Avs had like a decisive advantage was down the middle. Then you lose an important piece like that. And the Habs have a bit of an edge. I'd give them down the middle of the ice, but I think and in net, I'll give them the edge in Price versus Fleury. Playoff Price is just on another level this year. And Fleury's had some stinkers mixed in here. The
injuries too in Montreal.
Yeah, there's injuries in Montreal, and even if it's healthy, the blue line in Vegas is just better, man. Pietrangelo is worth every cent of that contract in the last 10 days.
Just to your point, Tyler, I was watching Vegas the other night, and it was the game when Mark Stone scored an OT, and it's just some of the first guys into the scrum. I was just looking at him, like shaking my head, like Mark Stone got him from Ottawa. Pacioretty was the captain of the Canadiens. Pietrangelo was from St. Louis. Like Fleury's playing out of his mind. Like just their team is very good. It's amazing, and it annoys me that they've just been able to collect all these really good players from other teams. Obviously, the expansion was great for them, but the pieces they added afterward as well. I can't see Montreal getting through it. Maybe it's just because I don't want to see Montreal get through it, but I just can't see it happening.
I will say too, the other caveat is my bracket is absolutely wrecked.
My bracket was fucked in the first round.
The only teams that I had going through were Vegas and the Islanders, and I picked everything else wrong. Every other matchup is wrong. So
that's because you put some trust in that really horrible organization out in Carolina.
Yeah. And the only saving grace I have,
they let you down again. They let you down again.
I have the Islanders going to the Stanley Cup Finals and winning. So if the Islanders did that, then I'm a genius. But otherwise, I'm an idiot.
What do we make of we got to do this debate every fucking however often, but
every year
supporting Canada's team.
No,
I'm not cheering for the Habs. I don't care.
No. I don't care either. I'm happy, I guess, for Montreal fans that they're able to have a good time right now, but I'm not cheering for you. Piss off. I would rather they just cancel the playoffs altogether right now because we're out. That's how I feel about it. I will not cheer for anybody else.
I just want to clarify. I'm cheering against Montreal now. I want Montreal out now. I'm not sitting here going, hey, do your thing. I want Montreal out now. I do not want to see another Canadian team win this. I do not know where this started from. You look around at other sports. I don't see it in other sports. Like it's weird.
And chances are, if you look around, like I'm just guessing off the top of my head, so don't quote me on it, but I'm guessing if you looked at the rosters, there's just as many Canadian players on all 4 teams as there is on Montreal or close to. So like, I don't buy it. I don't care.
if we're playing playoff coverage bingo, we just got a bingo because we mentioned that there's more Canadian players on other teams. We mentioned that we are actively
there might be. I don't know that for sure.
But it's usually the case. The St. Louis Blues had more Canadians on their team than anybody else, kind of thing. That we are actively cheering against the other Canadian teams, and it's nonsense. And it just happens every single year. And I think it just happens because statistically we have less Canadian teams in the league than any other country.
That doesn't mean anything.
But we have the most ravenous media in the world when it comes to hockey, and so they have to create storylines, and thus the storyline is, why aren't you supporting a Canadian team?
But you got to think that's just easy to get on board with the whole, we're not going to want them to win, they're not going to want to. If Montreal wins, do you think they're going to put the cup in a car and take it around Edmonton and let us?
Yeah, they're not going to share it.
It's nothing to do. The most they'll do is flaunt it.
If there's anybody from Edmonton, he'll bring it down, but like that's about it.
Yeah.
I lived in Halifax. I don't know if you guys knew this.
Did you?
But in 2006, I was, of course, there for the Stanley Cup run. And I said that to a lot of people that were like, yeah, I'm cheering for the Oilers. I'm like, why? Why do you care about us? Like, you haven't been there with us. I'm not accepting you as a fan myself. So don't like chum up with me. I've been through the shit. I've seen things as an Oilers fan, and you're joining in now that we're in the Western Conference Finals? No, thank you. Like, to me, the bandwagon is open until the playoffs start. And then anybody that cheers for the Oilers after that is just trying to cheer for a story. They're not actually Oiler fans.
So you're willing to accept someone if, like, before the playoffs this year, they would have been like, you know what? I want McDavid to win. I'm on your bandwagon, Edmonton. Yeah. I'm in. I want 100%. It. But after that, if it's like after a round one win, they go, ooh, I liked it. At that point, it's like, no. Doors closed. Trains left the station. Woo!
Yep. That's why when we're not in the playoffs, I often pick a team that I want to see win. But I'm not like, hey, I've been a so-and-so fan since day one. Like, no, that's not the way it works.
Yeah, I think the playoffs are about cheering against teams now, and it's just because that's the way it's been for the last 20 years for us.
I have no interest in watching Canadians fans have fun. None.
Canadian fans, by the way, also still bring up the fact that they're the last Canadian team to win a Stanley Cup. And that's, 93? So, 93. They still bring that up. And you don't think that if the Canadian fans win the Stanley Cup this year, they're not going to be insufferable for the rest of our lives until another Canadian team wins? Like, I don't understand that's where the disconnect happens for me.
Also, I'm still judging people that I know that cheered for the Flames in their run in 2004. So, if you're cheering for the Canadians right now, I will judge you. And I will carry it forward for decades.
Bag milk holds grudges.
I do.
Too bad Martin Jelena couldn't score that goal. Hey, guys. That puck never went in the net. Is because he was an Oiler. He didn't want to win it for the Flames.
It's true. These are facts.
We should try and make that hashtag trend on the day that it didn't go in. The "it was in" hashtag. Oiler fans should try and take that over from Flames fans so it devastates them.
All right, let's move along here and go back, circle into some Oilers topics here, and we're going to get into a debate later. But first, something that we will not debate at all. We will all just nod our heads in agreement on. Connor McDavid will win the Hart Trophy. He was nominated with Austin Matthews and Nathan MacKinnon, and there is absolutely no way you can argue against McDavid winning this award. Nation Dan, I am staring right at you. If you even try to pull some contrarian crap on this podcast regards to McDavid winning the Hart, I will lose it. I will boo from the Zoom call. He's winning.
I wasn't going to say anything from my side of things. Okay. I agree with you. He's going to win. But if you want to find somebody that's trying to do that, Rob Rossi at The Athletic is trying to bring in playoff performance into a regular season award. It's
the goalpost, man. They just got to move them every year. They just shift.
And you say it every time, Bag Milk, and you're right. And it's such a comical thing. It almost is removing the ability to have a good regular season as a thing that you should be proud of. Like, if you don't win the cup, unlike the other 31 teams that didn't win the cup, then you aren't as good as you thought you were, which is just such a joke. Like, why do we even play the regular season? Let's just seed the playoffs and have a playoff, and that's it. That's all we'll talk about because that's apparently how people want to do it now. It's such a joke. Sorry.
Yeah, this guy really thinks that Connor isn't like ahead. I was curious why they even added the two other guys.
Yeah, they should just nominate Connor 3 times.
What's the whole point in putting the other two on there? Like, this is such a walkaway. It's not even a question.
It's the funny thing too, is like I was cruising around, like to Dan's point, I'm writing a random thoughts article for Oilersnation.com tomorrow. And part of it is the McDavid for Hart thing. And I was cruising Twitter looking for people to coming up with mental gymnastics about why he shouldn't win. And it's the best. It's the best. Every year it changes. Oh, he didn't make the playoffs, so he can't win the Hart. Oh, well, this year he didn't win a round, so he can't win the Hart. Like, it's the best. And it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to get it. The only question I have is how many people are going to not have him as their first place vote. That's going to be the funny thing, because he should win in a landslide with every single vote. He should have been nominated 3 times. This is his year. And no offense to McKinnon and Matthews, both great players, but I have about as much chance of winning the Hart Trophy this year as those two do.
We should up our petty game, Bag Milk, and after the votes come out, we should write an article about each individual writer that didn't have Connor McDavid as their, and just drag them, just go after.
They don't put out the list, do they? Like, some guys can volunteer theirs, or do they put out the actual list?
I think they're forced to now.
Yeah, it's public info.
Which is the way it should be. If you can vote, you can answer for why you voted the way you voted.
I guarantee you there's someone who voted Marchand number 1. I guarantee you there's someone who voted Crosby number 1. And if those first 2 things I just said came true, I guarantee you the Marchand vote came from a Bruins writer. And I guarantee you
Is it Mr. Haggerty? Is that who you're thinking about?
Yes.
I don't name names. I'm not in the business.
That's exactly where I was going with that one.
McDavid won't win it unanimously because a certain someone out in Colorado probably voted for Nathan McKinnon. And that guy probably had
the question. Was it the guy from the question last night?
Dater? He's so anti-McDavid. He tweeted out earlier this year, he was like, Connor McDavid puts up points, but you want to talk about a real good hockey player, it's Austin Matthews. And I was like, oh, God, man, like, you want clicks that bad?
If you want to know everything you need to...
Look at his question last night, and just like, that's it. Wash your hands. This is the guy. Listen to the question. That's what he put it. Nate's been off the ice for 12 minutes, just lost in game 6, season's over, crushed, and you hand out that type of garbage question. Like, I don't even know if there's a question. What the was that?
Just to paraphrase it, it was like a rambling mess. It was just like, and there was an F-bomb in there. My favorite part about it was Pete Blackburn, I should say, clipped it, posted it, and just put a LeMayo as his caption. And then he got into it with Dater in the mentions on that tweet. It was so fucking funny. I love it, man. That's just so good.
Yeah, and Dater loved to pull out the whole, like, you've never been a beat reporter before. And someone else was like, well, Adrian, you're not a beat reporter anymore either, because you got fired for, like, sexually harassing someone in their DMs, and now you run your own independent hockey blog. We love bloggers, but we don't love Adrian Dater around here. All right, sticking on the topic of awards.
Is that true? I didn't know that either, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that's why he wasn't at the Post anymore. I don't think he was even allowed in the PWHA for a while. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing I don't need to get into right now. The other awards. There are some Oilers fans who are screaming snub because Tippett wasn't there for the Jack Adams, Smith wasn't in for the Vezina, and Nurse wasn't in for the Norris. Is there a legit, like, I'm looking at that, I don't think any of those 3 should have been nominated. Like, Nurse for Norris is the one I could hear a debate on, maybe.
But I can see it being close.
The other 2, I'm not. Like, I don't think Smith, he might be top 5. I don't think Tippett's top 5 for the Jack Adams. Nurse might be top 5 for the Norris. But again, I didn't have a huge beef with any of them not being top 3 for those awards.
I thought maybe Nurse would be the closest, but
yeah.
Before you get upset, I think you have to see where exactly they came in terms of votings, right? Because if Nurse was 4th, fair. If Nurse was 8th or 9th, that's ridiculous. You know, I don't think I have no clue how to judge Smith. So I won't even touch. I try and keep my hands free of goalies. And Tip, yeah, I guess same thing. You know, if he came in on a reasonable 5-6, sure. But if he's 12, then yeah, I get it. It's something wrong. So I'm going to hold off my my judgment of that till they release kind of like the whole breakdown.
I think that's fair. Dan?
I was just going to say, I think the reality is, like, you know, this season being as weird as it was, and I talked about it, I think on State of the Nation there on Tuesday, where they, like, a lot of these writers that cover their local team would not have been able to go and see, you know, other games. Yes, they can watch it on TV, and you hope that they did take that time to do it, but with the truncated season, these writers are covering their team, 95% of the time, and they're expected to watch other things. So I think what you're going to see a lot of is there's going to be one player from each division that really got pushed higher up than the others. And then you'll see a second player from each division, and it'll just kind of go down the cascading list like that. And that's just the way it is when it comes to the season. But yeah, I don't think that there's there's no snub in any kind of debate when it comes to any of those things, just because, like, as good as Darnell Nurse was, he doesn't have the name recognition that Victor Hedman does. He doesn't have the rookie season that Cale Makar had. Like, and I'm not saying that those necessarily should be things that knock him down, but it's the reality of the situation.
Is there some sort of oath or something that these writers take that, hey, we're not going to push our guy too hard?
A guy votes for Brad Marchand to be the best player in the league every year.
Look where that comes from, and
but there's no oath.
Area in every. Well, that's fine, but is there some unspoken thing, Tyler? You're gonna have the best knowledge of this. Is there some sort of unspoken rule where you're not supposed to do that? But I mean, that area where he comes from, in every sport, it's just
Homer.
Take him out of the. Yeah, it's bad.
I think what I'd say to that is the really good reporters and the bulk majority of guys who make up the voting and are in the Professional Hockey Writers Association, they take a lot of pride in doing this. And I think that's where it comes from. So maybe not an oath, but a general pride in your work and it's understanding that, it's not a huge deal, but you have a responsibility as a hockey writer to name these awards and be a part of hockey history. And a lot of guys do really, really take it seriously. And a lot of guys are, sitting there at their desk into the wee hours of the morning debating who should be 4 and who should be 5 on their Hart Trophy ballot. Like, that happens. And I think the real good writers, they really pain themselves over this. The lazy hacks, they'll do whatever they want. They'll fill it out in 5 seconds and ship it off, or fill out the email, however the hell they do it now. And I think now that the awards are posted publicly, that's nice, because you can kind of tell who really takes their time and who just sort of says, I think this guy did pretty good. Jot him in there. I like this guy. He's a good guy. Gives me good quotes. I'll jot him in there too. You can tell.
Actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, if there was ever an Oiler that got a snub by not getting a vote on anything, it'd be Leon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's the McDavid snub.
That's questionable. Where do you guys think when they break down the finals of the Hart? Is Leon 4?
Can you honestly, can you say that the best player on the team is Connor McDavid, number 1, and then say, well, actually it was Leon Draisaitl, number 4? To me, it's like, for the writer, it's hard for them to justify that when they have 31 other teams or 30 other teams that they have.
So does Leon just fall off the list then? How does that work?
I don't think, if I had to place a ballot for the Hart, I don't think Leon's in my top 5. I think the top
just crazy
3,
when you look at his points.
The top 3, I think they got right, and I think Crosby and Marchand are good as 4 or 5 spots. Crosby, I think, almost could have been nominated, considering how good he was this year, for a team that a lot of people didn't have high expectations for, and he had to do a lot of what he did without Malkin as that sort of buffer on the second line. So I loved what Crosby did this year. I just don't think Draisaitl's in the top 5. Maybe 6, 7, 8, whatever it ends up being. But
one of my favorite hot takes about Crosby was after the Penguins got knocked out. I just did a dumb tweet, as I usually do, which are most of my tweets. I just said, all right, Cassian for Crosby, final offer.
Yeah.
I legitimately got a DM from a guy that said I was dumb and he would never do a trade like that. From an Oilers perspective, I'm just okay. All right. Anyway, that was
odd.
Apropos of nothing.
Before we keep moving on, let's give some love to Skip the Dishes. It's the weekend. The weather's beautiful. You just want to sit on your patio and have food brought to you. Skip the Dishes makes that happen. You go on their app, you choose from the hundreds of restaurants they have there in the Edmonton area, and you place your little order, move your thumbs a few times, get that credit card info in there, and then bang, whatever it is, 45 minutes later, food's rolling up. You're eating like a king. Come on now. Skip the Dishes. Download the app.
I ordered some booze last week after we all yelled at each other.
I dig that. I like ordering the booze.
It was nice.
Smart mans.
It was real nice.
All right, so we got through the Hart Trophy. We got through the awards. I'm literally going through the list on the podcast here. Devin Shore, that's something that got people nice and pissed off.
Oh, man. I got to say, Edmonton Oilers fans are the best. They're just the best. We've got 4 months till the next season starts. A fucking minor transaction on the to-do list gets taken care of. And, I can see both sides of the argument. You know, I could see why people liked the way he kills penalties, his hustle, blah, blah, blah. I like all that. I can see on the analytics side, well, he was outscored 2-1. He was outshot 2-1. I'm like, okay. But like, what I don't understand, I guess, is just how fired up either way people were about this one. Cause like, if this is how fired up people are about Devin Shore, what's going to come when the meat and potatoes come later on in the summer? You know what I mean? Where like, how angry are we going to be? Like, let's just say he's my boy. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins signs an extension. Actually, you know what? Any extension Nuge signs is going to piss people off like crazy. So like, I can't wait. It's the thing that I love the most about the Oilers and Oilers fans specifically, is just, we're arguing about a fourth line guy this passionately and with this much just fury. It's the best. It made me laugh. The comment section on the Nation was great. Twitter was funny. Throwing memes down, just like grenades down the middle, was fun. I had a good time with it. I don't know.
I think if this signing would have happened on August 2nd, we wouldn't have heard a thing about it. And come training camp, a lot of the people pissed off about it would have been like, oh yeah, shit, I forgot they brought back Devin Shore. But because it was the first move and it happened when there's nothing else to talk about the Oilers, people are like throwing down the gloves. They're getting their charts. They're yelling about the eye test. It's just insanity, man. Like, from every side. If you love the Devin Shore signing, that is great. I don't mind it. It's $850,000. It doesn't matter at all to me. You can bury that for nothing, and he's in the minors at some point. And if he's good, he's a 14th or 13th forward who can play center or the wing, kill penalties. He skates okay. I don't see a reason to freak out about it, but people were like yelling so loud about this signing on both sides of the argument that I was just like, guess he can go outside. Like, come on. I
wanted to try and make up I thought since the Devin Shore thing was so funny that it would also be fun to just try and start the same kind of drama that the Oilers let Gaetan Haas go. You know what I mean? Just like, come on, they're fucking Gaetan Haas. Just get really upset about it. Just in the complete opposite direction.
Fucking
he was so effective at his own end, and he helped stop the goals. I think to me, what the argument is telling me is that there is a war coming, boys, and we have to choose a side. Are you analytics or are you not? And that's the battle that I think is rising up within Oiler fandom. I know it's been there.
But if he signs someone like Blake Coleman to a reasonable contract, everyone's going to be happy, right? Like if it's Blake Coleman for $3.9 million on a 3-year deal, everyone should be happy. If they get Thomas Tatar 2 weeks after free agency for
that's not the case though, Tyler. You know it's not the case that if they sign Blake Coleman for a reasonable deal, that everybody will be happy. It's just not going to be the case. I think
we're going to have an offseason that keeps everyone happy. I'm going to hold on to that.
The big news that slipped under the radar, I think, of most Oiler fans is the chosen one, Martin Marincin, is going back to his home country.
No,
he cannot find a deal here. Just like Gaetan Haas, like Joakim Nygard.
He's choosing to go. He's choosing to go then, because it's not that he can't find a deal, because a guy like him's not going to sign till halfway through the summer anyways, which is fine. I mean, at that point, why not just
is he going home, regrouping, becoming stronger, so that he can really make a charge for a Norris next season?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the computer boys would say that's the case. Yeah,
and that's exactly it. Is that we attribute these players to either the eye test darling or they're the not eye test darling, and if they fail, God help the team that he was chosen for, because it's going to be a mess.
Although I will say, and I'm not really on either side of this thing, I think the word analytics is just a sour word. Like if you just use simple language, a lot of anti-analytics people are going to really like what you're saying. But as soon as you're like per 60 or expected, they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Nerd. But my favorite thing is when an announcer or anyone will be like, that Philippe Deneau, Jesus. That Deneau, he does so many things. The analytics, they just won't tell you. He does a lot of things so well. And what makes him a good player is what he does on the ice, not the spreadsheets. But then you look at the spreadsheets and they also tell you he's like a great centerman and he's really undervalued. And it's great when someone's like, oh, the analytics are wrong on this guy, when no, they're actually correct. And everyone's right. Philippe Deneau is the kind of guy who the numbers and the eye test likes.
We talked about analytics a little bit last week, and I think the way is you can't just rely on one way or the other. You need to, like, they're tools, right? They're tools to evaluate. And I don't think it makes sense to go full money ball, because if that's the approach, it's not going to work. Baseball starts from the exact same position every single play. That's not hockey, man.
Exactly.
Also,
that's not hockey.
You want to go full money ball? The Oakland A's never won anything.
No, they lost.
So here's the thing. I said it.
They made a movie out of it, but who gives a shit?
There's a good movie too.
Yep.
I said it in a tweet to your coworker Tyler, actually. Good, Lieutenant Eric. That I think that there's, like, if you look at it, like, analytics is, let's just say, analytics is the dark side of Star Wars, and the eye test is the light side. You have to find balance in the Force, and the true balance is that we continue to argue about it, and we will argue about it until the end of time. That's the real balance, and a team that has an analytic darling paired with an eye test darling is going to win the Stanley Cup every time.
Speaking of Lieutenant Eric, he had a great troll job on their show the other day when they were at the peak of the arguing about Devin Shore. Coming back from a commercial break, he plays a goal call, and it's Kevin Quinn. And he goes, and the puck goes back to the point, shot from the blue line, scores! Mark Fane, it's 1-0 Oilers. It is a great dunk.
The whole time we were signing Mark Fane because of the computer boys, when really we should have been signing Green instead, or getting Green instead, you know?
Yeah. All right, quickly here, let's give some love to Cornerstone Insurance. Cornerstone, ins.ca is where you can find them. Get yourself covered. Fantastic services. Proud partners of Oilers Nation as well. We love them very much. Solid protection, sound advice, Cornerstone Insurance. We are done with the short talk. We've done all the playoff talk. I don't know what I wrote down here. Oh, Haas. We talked about Haas as well, so that's checked off the list.
I got a question, though. I got a question about Haas. Nygaard, like, literally as the boys are packing up their lockers, signed a 6-year deal in Sweden. And then Haas signed a 5-year deal in Switzerland. Like, Oilers bottom 6. If you're looking for a long-term deal, a little bit of smoke over like an extended contract, head over to Europe, boys, because they are handing out term over there.
We're doing what we did with Barry. We're doing for the other guys too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'll be our pitch to European free agents. So be like, listen, if your club team in the Dell is only offering you 2 years, 1 or 2 seasons with Connor McDavid here in Edmonton, they'll go long term. You just got to sweat them out a little bit.
You may not play every night, but you will sign a long-term extension when you're done. I guarantee it. It's just, it's amazing. Like, I don't know. We were talking about this before we started recording, but like, I don't know if long-term contracts are the norm like this over in Europe, but I find it endlessly fascinating that the season is literally still warm for the Oilers. Yeah. And these guys are just like, long-term deal back home. All right.
Well, and for a team, if you're looking at it from a European team's perspective, there's no risk to having Gaetan Haas become less effective for you. Like, he's a good player, and it's not gonna kill you to have, half of Gaetan Haas as an Edmonton Oiler playing for your team locked up into those contracts, because I would assume that those contracts are like a football contract where it's like, if we don't like you, we can walk away from you kind of thing. But yeah, it's a funny thing that, like you said, Bag Milk, the body isn't even cold yet, and all these players have departed for their new countries.
Like when you see the UFA sign it, like it's like when you see the UFA sign like 4 minutes into UFA season, like, we weren't talking yesterday.
We just negotiated very quickly.
I just checked my spam folder this morning, and this contract offers was just waiting there. I don't know.
The way they work around that is the agent gets a call from a GM, and it's like, hypothetically, if my team was looking for a left winger in free agency,
would you know anybody?
Do you know anyone who would maybe sign for 4 years, $4 million? And the agent goes, I know a guy, but I think the guy I know is more looking for 4.5. Never use names, just very vague, lurk around. I will say, though, I'm kind of a fan of them. I don't love that negotiating window beforehand, because it just ruins the excitement of free agent day. Like, go back to saying it's illegal to tamper, and we're going to get big, exciting news on July 1. And you're still going to get your signings early on. It's going to happen. They're going to cheat, but still.
Looking at puckpedia.com.
We just get 4 days of excitement coming in right at 11 a.m. or whatever time it starts. You're like, yeah, that was good.
Looking at puckpedia.com, boys, I'm just one guy who, he'll probably be in the NHL, but I could also see him bouncing over to Europe. What do you think happens to Dominic Cahoon, RFA this year?
I wouldn't bring him back. I didn't even mind what he did though. Like I liked Cahoon here. He's fine, but you gotta aim higher than that this offseason.
He was fighting above his weight class for sure.
He was, and like, is he a full-time top 6 winger? No.
Top 9 maybe.
Top 9 maybe, but even then, I want to see Ken Holland swing harder. I want to see him bring back Nuge, go get one of Coleman, Sauter, Hyman, add them into the top 6, and then go out and get another guy as well. Go sign Michael Bunting. Like, there's a guy who might have a higher upside than Cahoon, scored 10 goals in 20 games. Like, there's so many more interesting options out there that you can go take a chance on someone with a higher ceiling than Dom Cahoon.
Especially when,
I think if you're watching the playoffs this year,
flat cap, you know?
Yeah, and if you're watching the playoffs this year, it's pretty rough and tough out there, right? Like, I know a lot of people aren't too much on the side, you know, they don't want to go to the sides and stuff, but the Cahoon's role, my preference would be to, you know, if you have the same skill set, if I get a bigger body down there.
Yeah,
totally.
You know, if you've watched these series, man, like they're rough.
Because like when they had Cahoon and Yamo on either side of like the second wing, or second line, that is a small line.
What they need to do this offseason is they need to find the hybrid of Pat Maroon and Dominic Cahoon. Big body.
Isn't that Coleman?
Braden Shen.
Coleman's not as big. Coleman's under 6 feet. But a big body with good scoring touch and good offensive instincts. Cahoon brought the offensive instincts and he skated pretty well. Maroon had the scoring touch and the size. Combine those two, and that's a guy who you're probably going to have to pay more than $5 million a year for in all likelihood. But that's who they need to be eyeing up here. I think they'll go free agent for one, and I think they'll go trade for another one. But I think we'll see a couple left wingers brought in on top of Nuge.
Oh,
hear anything about RNH, Tyler? I've just stopped looking.
There's nothing. Stauffer dropped a little piece of info on his show the other day saying he expects Holland to reach out to the representatives soon if he hasn't already to reignite the talks. But I'm still pretty confident they'll get something done. I just think free agency can be a harsh wake up for some players. And I think Nugent Hopkins might find out on day one that there are teams who are interested in him, but those same teams might be going, but we're in on, I doubt it'll be Landeskog, but those teams might be like, we're in on Sod too, or, we're looking at some other centermen too. Like, we'll keep you in the mix. And he might at some point just go, you know what? That last offer from Edmonton's good enough for me. And he'll come back, or he'll tell his agent to stop playing around and to get a deal done at some point. So I'm confident.
Or like, the reality is there will be a team that can offer Nugent Hopkins more money, but do you want to play there?
Yeah, that too.
We've just had two players speak up today, vocally say that money's not the biggest thing going forward for them. I assume one is, Krejci, he's old, but whatever. But at least Halsey's in the same position. And they've both come out today and said, money's not really the biggest thing going forward. I think if that's the type of thing that these players are starting to, that's kind of their mindset, then he's not going to go chasing the bag, but he's going to stay here because there's not a team out there that is on our level that can afford to bring him in. He's going to go somewhere else, he's going to go on a team lower.
I think Hall's the interesting one. Like if the Bruins don't sign him, which I kind of think they will.
Yeah.
And he makes it to UFA. Like if you're Ryan Nugent Hopkins and you see Taylor Hall also going and you play the same position, wow. All of a sudden
there's a lot of good wingers on the market.
So I'm hopeful my boy comes back, but we'll see how it goes.
Dan, speaking of the Bruins, your Tuukka Rask dream is now dead. I know you were really holding out hope for Tuukka Rask coming to Edmonton.
What did he say?
He came out today and basically said, well, yeah, he's going to be out till January of 2022. And then he said if he plays anywhere, it's going to be in Boston. He has no interest going anywhere else. He was like, my family's in Boston. I don't want to leave them. So Tuukka Rask saying he's going to lock it up. And I like that idea too. I like a veteran goalie. I know Mike Smith is also a veteran goalie, but Rask has had like a really good proven track record of performing in the playoffs, and he was only 34. But the goaltending thing's going to be interesting too, because we haven't even heard a lot about what their plan is there to run with Mike Smith.
The more I think about it, the more I feel like it's going to be the same duo again.
Oh God.
The more I think about it, I'm not saying that's what I want. I just feel like that's what's going to happen.
I don't think they can. They've been telling us for 2 years, we can't do much in the summer. I'm sorry. It's the summer. It's this summer we're in right now. Okay, they've been selling it to us. We've been okay.
I'm with you.
Whatever.
I'm with you.
I think they have to, and I think they will.
They might. I think if anything, I think they might overpay for somebody that we didn't.
That's what I'm a little bit worried about, because if you watched last year, I think the three guys we kind of thought about or had kind of a high on our list kind of went 1, 2, 3 really, really quickly. And, you know, I think Holland was in on all three of them, just obviously didn't win any of them. That might scare him a bit, and to avoid having the same situation as last year and the same duo coming into this year, I think you might see him pull the trigger a little bit quicker and therefore spend maybe a little bit more or a turn.
I wonder.
I'm not saying I like it.
No, fair enough. I get it.
I wonder about Peter Mrazek. His value's not going to be very high coming off the year he had in Carolina, and him and Ken Holland have a history. Is he, like, again, the reason I like Rask with you, Dan, is because, like, proven playoff guy, right? Mm-hmm. And Mrazek has a bit of a history in him of playing good in the playoffs with Carolina as well. I wonder if Mrazek isn't like Tuukka Rask light, where he's only going to cost you probably like $3 million. History with Holland, like you said, Bag Milk. Mrazek's an interesting name for me.
How old is he though?
29.
Fuck, that's
really? Man, that's a guy that you feel he's been around forever. Like,
yeah.
Mrazek, I feel like he was around.
We remember him going bananas at the World Juniors, remember, in Edmonton?
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. He's only 20. I would have seen older.
And when you look at the free agent list, other than him, the pedigree just, other than Rask and him, the pedigree just isn't that high. Like Frederick Anderson.
I like Anderson too, to be fair.
But he doesn't have that playoff pedigree.
No, he doesn't.
I could see,
like, you know, Rask is the winningest goalie in Boston Bruins history, which is crazy.
That is nuts.
The thing about Anderson, though, I wonder, I'm not necessarily suggesting the Oilers fish for him, but like, I wonder if he goes and does like a Tyson Barrie type short-term bet on himself type thing.
You know who I'd watch if he does that? Pittsburgh. They need someone to play with Tristan Jarry. I've seen him connected to the Penguins. I wrote about it in my rumors blog. I think Anderson and Jarry might be the duo in Pittsburgh next year.
Isn't it funny how Pittsburgh's goaltending situation has turned out? They Fleury went off. They let him go because they had Matt Murray. Now Matt Murray's not even there, but like Fleury's still lighting it up.
It's funny how that happens all the time though. Like, remember when Vancouver had Schneider and Luongo? Mm-hmm. And then they go and like totally pissed it away for a bit. And there was those few years where you're like, God, they are morons. What was Vancouver thinking? They had two great goalies. Now they have none. But then like Markstrom turns out to be sick and they got Horvat in the deal. So again, you have to flip back to like, oh, damn, Vancouver did pretty good in those trades. Then Schneider just fell off the earth somewhere.
Yeah, after what was that? What did they want for him from us? That's ridiculous. Look at it right now.
What was it?
What was it? Clefbaum, Nurse, and Leon or something like that? It was ridiculous.
I don't remember. That's horrific.
They wanted a lot, and they ended up shipping him out to New Jersey instead, and got a lesser total. Obviously, you don't want to do in your division, but they were asking for. And if I'm not mistaken, at this time, Nurse and Leon would have been just prospects, and I'm fairly certain Clefbaum was in there.
So here was the piece from Ben Kuzma of The Province. Edmonton specifically was rumored to have offered their first-round pick and a high-end prospect. Vancouver turned it down to take just the first-round pick from New Jersey, but Ben Kuzma goes on to add there was a bigger package for Schneider. They could have had Darnell Nurse and Oscar Clefbaum and Nurse and Clefbaum was the offer. Sorry, that was the final offer.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Can you imagine if the Oilers traded Nurse and Clefbaum for Schneider?
Nuts.
I don't know who our GM was at that time, but that guy deserves like a piece of pizza or something for not doing that.
It's interesting how that works. Hey, like the division thing. Okay, I get it. But like even Chiarelli trying to fish for Dougie Hamilton from Boston, and they turned down a bigger offer to send him to Calgary because Chiarelli just left there, and then we ended up getting fucking Reinhardt. But like,
I'm reading this piece now. Don't get me wrong. Bo Horvat may well turn into a decent middle six center for the Canucks. However, he's unspectacular at best.
Now he's the captain. Now he's the captain and arguably the most consistent player on their team.
But like, I was laughing about this the other day too. I know we're getting a little off topic, but like, I was laughing at the Habs when they did Weber for Subban. I'm like, you guys are fools. You took the old aging D-man and gave up on this young up and coming puck mover. Bergevin's an idiot. And then like 3 years later, Subban's getting dished around for second round picks and having his Cabernet. And he's working as an analyst with ESPN while Shea Weber's logging 25 a night for the Habs. Hilarious.
At the very beginning, though, Shea Weber had some serious injury issues.
He did. His foot, they were talking about he might have to retire and like how the cap restructure would fuck everyone up like it would have with Luongo. or like it did with Luongo. Vancouver has him on the books. I feel like we don't talk about that enough either with the Canucks in that whole debacle. Luongo is still on the books at where is he? Oh, maybe he's not on the books anymore.
Didn't they change that? Because there was that thing, like if Weber retired,
he's on the books $3 million next year as well, a recapture penalty.
Because remember,
when was the last time he played for him?
Yeah,
that was the Kovalchuk rule.
When was the last time he laced up for them, though?
Or no, it was the Marian Hossa rule. After he retired.
No, I think you're thinking of Kovalchuk when he signed that mega deal in New Jersey and then dipped to go to the KHL.
Yeah.
And then just came back. It's just okay. Do you remember before they changed that rule though? Like if Shea Weber retired, it would have been Nashville would have been on the hook for like $20-something million or something like that.
There's a chance still that if he retires at some point in the next few years, Nashville's on the hook for like 2 years at like $9 million a season or some absurd shit. Like it's fucked. It's so funny. But there was a point where the cap it would have been like $23 million, and Nashville could have been forced into a rebuild if Shea Weber retired because they wouldn't have been able to afford a roster.
Could you imagine $23 million in dead cap space?
We're getting upset about Sexy Reg at 1.5 next year.
We're getting upset about Shore at 850.
Yeah, like with Shore, it's $100,000 over league minimum. Like they almost literally couldn't pay the guy less, and people are like, "What a waste! He's gonna block Benson." What are we even doing here?
I am interested in seeing what Tyler can bring. I don't see a place in the lineup anymore for him.
I don't think he sticks, to be honest.
I can't find a spot for him. Like when you look at it, the type of player he is, he's not a bigger body. That's kind of what you need in the
little bit
middle
slower.
I know he's been working on his PK this year. He wanted to do that because he knew if he was going to make a roster that he needed to play special teams. He was never going to make the first line power play here. So that his best option was the PK. So him and Crawford worked on that last season, but even still, because you also I don't see the type of player how that type of player fits in our roster right now.
And also same position, Holloway left him on the depth chart without even playing a pro game. So
I don't know.
But that's good though. That's good depth, right? When you can have a couple young guys battling for spots and mix in good veterans in there as well. That is how good hockey organizations operate. What does Ken Holland call it? A good hockey program.
Detroit.
Can you imagine if the Oilers like win a cup and Ken Holland in his press conference right after he's on the ice, he goes, "Can't wait to come back to the fans in Detroit." Wrong team, Ken. Wrong team.
Bring this back to Joe Lewis.
Yeah. Finally
back to Joe Lewis.
Finally, he throws an octopus on the ice himself.
Ken Holland shirtless swinging an octopus as the Oilers win a Stanley Cup. That's what we want.
Do they still do that?
He's the Brett Hall.
The Fun Police kill that?
I don't know.
I think they do it officially themselves now. I think they have like one fan that does it, and they throw it on the ice, and then everybody goes crazy, and it's like agreed to that's the way it is, because then that attendant comes out and whips that thing around like he's done it 1,000 times in his life, which he has.
I used to love the stories when I was a little kid, like in the 90s. Tyler, I remember I know you weren't born then, but like
I was not.
In the 90s when you have those stories about fans sneaking in an octopus taped to their leg or whatever, and then they huck it on the ice.
Dude, they'd have like 20 octopus like throughout the game. You'd have like 10, 20 octopus. Like, dude, they weren't all coming at once. You had to hold that thing. You're waiting for your buddy to score. You're like, this is my favorite player. I'm going to whip it out there. He doesn't score till halfway through the third. Like, you have to like tuck that under your arm. Is that your beer drinking arm? Like, just think of like what's happening.
It's like somebody's dripping down your side. Like
you got a little tentacle popping out the bottom of your jeans, you know?
If you know what I'm saying. All right. Let's wrap this up with hot and cold performers brought to you by Deuce Vodka. Prairie Spirit, second to none. They're our official fun sponsor on the pod. We love Deuce Vodka. They got original, they got neon, Brett Kissel's own Deuce Vodka. As Bag Milk would say, let's start with our veggies and our cold performers of the week. I'll come to you first, Rick.
Well, this is going to go back to something I saw on Twitter last night. June is the Gay Pride Month. And then we had somebody in our city, unfortunately, run up on somebody's lawn and rip down their gay pride flag.
Oh, yeah.
However, that just being stupid, what it has turned into is a lot more people coming out and just, I think, in spite of said person, putting them out on their lawns now. So I think in this day and age, With everything going around all over this world, we just need to open our hearts to everybody and stop doing this bullshit. I don't care if you don't like it, whatever, keep it to yourself. But hey, everyone just leave them be.
I just realized since I'm not with the roadcaster, I don't have my buttons. So
you're gonna have to mouth the buttons.
So, oh, that's cold. All right, Nathan, Dan, you're up next.
It just had the right amount of dryness to it that it works. For me, it's just something that was just mentioned in our last segment when we talk about players coming to the team and signing a player. The people that say that signing such and such a player is blocking another player from making the team can just go away. I cannot stand that take. If you're not good enough to be on the team because another player got signed, you're not good enough to be on the team. That's the end of the conversation. Yeah. I don't know why that's a reason why we shouldn't sign a better player and bring that player onto the team. If Tyler Benson or whoever is blocked in your mind isn't good enough to be on your team, don't be upset about it. Be happy that you signed somebody that's better. So you are my cold performer of the week.
Brr. Bag milk?
My cold performer of the week is the Buffalo Sabres for saying, no, Jack Eichel, you can't quit. You're fired. I think that it was hilarious. Friedman, I think he did one of his hits, and he was speculated that the Sabres are done with Jack Eichel, as if he wasn't done with the Sabres long ago. So Buffalo Sabres, you're late to the party. Jack's already done. He's already done, and you can't tell him that he's fired because he's already quit. Buffalo Sabres, cold performer of the week.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. All right. My cold performer of the week. I wasn't sure how much we were going to get into it. And we got into a bit, but I'm going to say the departure of my boy Gaetan Haas. His first season here, he was my favorite Oiler. I loved him. He was skating hard, skated like the wind. I wanted better things for Gaetan Haas as an Edmonton Oiler. So he is going to go down as my cold performer of the week. I don't know what button I should impersonate.
I'll get it for you, Tyler. Row, 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 row.
There you go.
There you go.
A little Frank button. Let's flip the ledger here. Go to our hot performer of the week. And Rick, I'll start with you.
I don't know who's watching the Euro here, but if you watch the intro to it, so I don't know who to give this to, but whoever made the intro, and then when they had the ball delivered to the Dotton Center there, they had like a little, I think it's a little Volkswagen RC type of car, take it out there. Just the showmanship for the Euro here. I like this kind of stuff.
Hot performers, you guys gotta go. Bye.
Okay. See ya. Our good friend Bag Milk had to run in a hurry to get off this podcast, which is actually why I was hosting this week. So Bag Milk names us his hot performer of the week. Dan, your hot performer of the week?
Okay, so this one I've shied away from giving you guys too many recommendations for Netflix during this pandemic, but I have to highly recommend Formula One Drive to Survive. It is an absolutely amazing show. It's really well done. And then it got me back into Formula One racing, which I haven't paid attention to since Jacques Villeneuve was tearing up the course against Michael Schumacher and the only Canadian to ever win Formula One Drivers' Championship back in 1997. So my first race was this weekend. There was tires exploding on the middle of straight runaways. There was intrigue between teams where racers were told not to go into the pits, and then they actually got in trouble for that. Just an exciting sport to enjoy on a weekend morning, early in the morning. Rick is upset by my hot performer of the week.
No, not at all. I had a question. Like, is it real? Like, is it a biography? Is it about actual racers? Is it a
great
TV
question,
show?
Rick. Fantastic question. What it is the races that you watch on the weekend are 2 hours long, and that's it. They only have 2 hours to cover that stuff. So what this does is it goes through the season, but not following the season regimentally. Like, it doesn't go race 1, race 2, race 3. It follows different storylines that you can follow along with.
But of actual racers and like today's version.
Yep,
this season.
Exactly. Because what happens in F1 is there's different echelons of skill and talent. And so like the top 3 teams compete against each other, and then the top 6 teams below them compete against each other, and so on.
I liked watching back in the Schumacher days when both Schumachers are racing, and then I really got when they brought in the whole tire rules, and they kind of took the strategy out of it by trying to make everything a little more fair. They took strategy out of it, and I kind of lost interest at that point. So I used to watch all the time.
100%. Now you get the intrigue, you get the excitement of the lower tier racing teams, and you get to actually find out about everybody on the course, as opposed to the 2-hour broadcast where you're just talking about the Schumachers, the Lewis Hamiltons, the top guys. So yeah, Formula One, Drive to Survive. You're my Deuce Vodka hot performer of the week.
Pew 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 pew. My hot performer of the week. Bag Milk gave them the cold performer of the week, but Eichel and the Sabres are getting my hot performer. They're going to make this summer fun. We're going to get to see a blockbuster trade at some point now. These two sides hate each other. And you know what? If you're an Oilers fan who's going to complain about what they've been able to do with Connor McDavid, consider yourself lucky. You're not a Sabres fan. They've somehow found a way to just blow this thing up, and it'll be fun to watch where Jack Eichel goes. Hopefully not into the Pacific Division, though. So the Eichel and Sabres drama gets my hot performer of the week.
I like chicken. I like fried chicken.
All right. Shout out to everyone for tuning in. Shout out to Deuce Vodka, Sherwood Ford, Cornerstone Insurance, and Skip the Dishes. Shout out to you three. Well, two of you now because Bag Milk's gone. But this was a lot of fun, guys. Episode 143, Oilersnation Radio is over.
Shout out Kevin Adams.
Thanks for listening to Oilers Nation Radio, a member of the Nation Network of Podcasts. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media to stay up to date and never miss a podcast.